Hey, Internet. I just wanted to give a quick disclaimer. In this episode, we do start talking about sex, so if you're not comfortable hearing us voice our opinions about sex and getting pregnant in general, I would suggest you give this one a skip.
It's not the issue isn't that people desire luxury even.
No, no,
It's
no,
the
that's not a
fact
problem.
that no, just a disclaimer. It's not like you could want a mansion, fine, whatever. You could want a Lambo. You could want the most expensive gaming PC money can buy. But it's the fact that it's so unattainable that people will take absolutely anything and try to monetize it. And it's like this is a big thing with immigrants to begin with. But it's like if you mention one interest or one skill or anything at all that you have, the very first word out of their mouth will be, "Wow, you should sell that. Wow, you should do this. Wow, why don't you make a website and show people and you can make money and make people get rich? That's so and so. Or I saw on the news this, and this, and this, and this. And look, your waist." And it's like, you can't enjoy anything anymore to enjoy it.
So,
It has to be
so,
profitable.
That's
so,
valid.
so
Which is
technically
what Disney said
speaking,
earlier, but still.
my mom lived in America for a while, but she still had that immigrant parent mentality. That you mentioned, and so I think that's why I got peer pressured into going for the major that I went for, because my mom was like, "Oh, you're really good at math. You should be an engineer." And I kind of
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, "Oh, I kind of like animals." Um so and then she was like, "But you're good at math, so you should be an engineer."
And it's also like, I think it's so funny now that I've gotten older, like that same exact thing that you're talking about, like when you are in high school and you're starting to think about college and your career, or maybe you're not going to college, or you're just thinking about like what you want to do with your life in general, like the times that are, I would say, quote unquote, like essential, I guess, or like at least in terms of like what ages the society deems as like important in terms of like taking steps towards your career. Like, I just think it's so funny that you're literally like a kid still while you're making these decisions. Like, maybe you dropped out of high school, maybe you start college and you're like 18, 19, 20. Even if you're like in your early or mid 20s, like, you're still, you don't, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have even a glimpse of like what the quote unquote real world is like. And I used to hate when people in high school, like teachers and stuff, would say like, well, when you get into the real world, blah 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 blah. But that's actually kind of real. Like,
So,
once you're
ha-
not in
You're so
school
right.
anymore, it's like, yeah, hits the fan and it doesn't ever stop hitting the fan, and you just have to figure out how to move on and clean the shit up before it happens again, you know?
so my
But
thing
even then, what
my thing
irritates
with
me,
the teachers being like, "Oh, when you're out of high school in the real world, blah blah blah." My whole problem with that is, okay, you're telling me about the real world, so why don't you actually I don't know, teach me how to deal with it?
That's the other thing that's so backwards about the friggin' education system in America is that they teach, some skills that are applicable to everyday life,
Bro,
but
not teach
it's like,
anything.
really, once you get into the quote unquote real world that they're talking about, you are constantly hit with so many like struggles and issues because nobody taught you how to do XYZ.
listen,
And
I'm gonna
that's
put it
why
like this.
so many people end up in debt and they end up unhappy or they end up in a career that they don't want. And it's like, well, no, people aren't satisfied because you didn't teach them how to do this stuff and you just expect it for
Put it like
young
this.
adults and children.
Look, I'm gonna put it like this. I'm gonna put it like this. The fact that I had to take a chemistry class, a biology class, a physics class
Can't believe you took
in
physics.
I had
And
to. It was mandatory in my
I
school.
know. I'm aware.
Um
I'm aware.
the fact that I had to take those three sciences, which are completely useless to my life right now. And let's be honest, for the most part, was always going to be useless to my life, specifically chemistry, because I don't who needs
Yo,
chemistry other than a person that's going to be a
so
chemist.
real.
But
So real.
but
Oh
anyways,
my God.
like it's crazy that I learned all three of those sciences barely, mind you. Like you barely get taught anything in those classes, anyways. But the
So
fact that I had
real.
those three classes, but yet I had no class at all about I don't know, dealing with credit cards, dealing with
Personal
money in general.
finance.
Like it's crazy to me. It's
Yeah, and then
insane.
like I think it's just so funny then like the kids who do go to college and they don't necessarily have money to put themselves through it, like then the adults are handing over these contract of loans.
Like,
We're
all
not
right.
even aren't even taught how to read.
Like,
Exactly. And then we're
let's-
just automatically fucked. It
The
doesn't even
fact-
matter if we drop out.
the
early.
fact that again I had three different science classes, but I had no class at all about reading legal documents to make sure things are actually okay. You know, maybe just do a lesson or two on, hey, let's make sure you're not actually just signing away your rights. You know, that would have been useful information. It would have been useful information to, I don't know, maybe, again, know how to do anything personal finance related.
I'm also gonna add just to really sweeten the deal. It's like they always say when you get into the real world, homie, my brother in Christ, this is the real world.
That's what
Absolutely.
pisses me off about that saying.
So, like,
Yes, obviously there's other things going on in life, and yes, it does get worse. Like
Much
Tosh
worse.
and me were saying earlier, of course. But it's like all the things that I was dealing with in high school and all the things that I was dealing with in middle school and elementary school, those were so applicable to me as a human being, literally in the middle of that part of my life, just like my 20s are now. And people always say, oh, when I was 20 this, when I was 20 that, and it's like, I'm 20 right now and I'm still developing and growing, and your brain doesn't stop until you're 25. But anywho, like, this is still a part of my life that I have to experience and learn and stuff like that. And you're not helping me now either, especially in high school and middle school when you're going through like puberty and like all that other stuff. And then also in high school, like think about all those people that literally experience so many freaking tragedies just in high school. I feel like elementary school, middle school, you're a little more detached, but in high school you kind of like really wake up and are aware of absolutely everybody's life that touches you. And just all those tragedies and bad things that happen. And even not the bad things, but like the nice things too, like whatever. But it's like, it's just such a sensitive period.
No, I was just about to say, I feel like saying like, oh, when you get to the real world, blah, blah, blah. I feel like it also invalidates a lot of the stuff that you're going through at the time. Like,
Right, and I'm sure our parents
I
have
think
always been
that's
like,
why
wait until you're older.
That's why it used to piss me off so much, is because like, you know, even in high school and middle school and whatever, I was still being depressed and like, you know, like
didn't even know what depression was, but I still had it.
Exactly. And it's like, it would make me so angry when people would say that, because I'm like, well, then what is this? What am I living in right now? Is this fake?
With right now?
Like, does this not count? Does, like, I don't even know.
No, I have a perfect example for that, actually. Like, so, one day when I was in like the 10th grade? I don't know. I was in whatever grade. And one of my friends was going through some family stuff. And he didn't show up to his school. We went to different schools. He didn't show up to his school. And one of his friends was texting me because he was worried because of things that happened the night before. And I'm texting my friend, blah, blah, blah. And my teacher sees me and he's like, are you on your phone? And I was like, I absolutely am. And he was like, oh, blah, 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 you can't be on your phone, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, I'm going to be on my phone because this is important right now. And then he was like, when you get into the real world, you won't be able to do stuff like this. And I was like, what
Krusty Krab.
real world are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I think my friend has possibly gotten hurt by someone in his family. My guy, you can take your little history lesson and shove it right up your... And
Real.
that's my soapbox for the day. No, it's not, but not for
It's
the day.
also just like so disheartening to hear that as a developing mind. Like, it seems like, I don't remember which one of you said it before, like it invalidates almost your experience, and like it just makes you feel like, oh, okay, well,
See, for
fuck.
me,
And even if
for
nothing
me-
is going on and you're just like a bystander, it's just like it gets worse. Like
No,
but-
literally, that's exactly what I was just about to say. Like, I was just about to say, like, whenever I had an adult be like, "Oh, wait till you're in the real world," like, I would always be like, I feel this now as a 16-year-old.
yeah.
It's gonna get worse.
And it did somehow.
It
And then
got
depending on
so
your
much
family.
worse.
Yeah, and then depending on your family too, it's just like you see their life and you realize you're kind of headed in that direction, whether you like it or not. And you're just
Mm.
like, I don't want to live like that. And that's why, like, and I say this with discretion, but it's like, it's why suicide rates and self-harm are so high at that age. And they kind of spike during those certain tender periods. Like, yeah, like there's the high school age, and then when you're older, it's kind of not your 30s, but very early 40s, it starts to spike again because by 30s, people settle down. So then you look around and you see, like, well, I'm not there yet either. What's wrong with me now?
Mm.
And, there's this parts, and then your 60s, I think it ends up spiking. And then around 80s, it spikes because then you start to lose people a lot more. And, the age starts to hit you in health. And it's just
So-
like it's not helping. So that's normally the age of your parents too. So it's like it's not helping. It's like that, if I see the people around me or people that are older than me and they're not even doing well, and this is when it starts to get it starts to divide people of color and hit us more harder, and people of a lower class, we get hit more harder. And it's like because these are the people that we're surrounded by.
Mm.
I feel like what people forget is there's a distinction between adults and young adults for a reason. Like, young adults are quite literally not adults yet. They're called young adults for a reason.
I'm
Because
baby.
you're like Em said, your brain isn't developed until you're 25.
And that's the decision making part. So imagine that.
Right, like
That's-
your actual rational conscious self does not finish developing until you are 25 years old. I would want to say this first. The fact that we are expected to choose what we are supposed to do for the entirety of the rest of our life at a very young age when our brain isn't even close to being fully developed. Thank you, America. Not even America, because it's not America's fault. This is just the world. Thank you. Beautiful idea. Love it.
I know, like we're
That's
not gonna
a-
die of plague. So what's the rush?
That's
I
another
don't
thing
get
that
it.
pisses me off, though, is that it's like, good grief, I lost my train of thought. Come
It's
back to
okay.
me at another
It's okay.
time.
We'll call on you later on.
That's okay. We'll pause.
But like, no, it's insane that we're expected to, like, all right, for my personal experience, I was 17 when I graduated high school. I was
Same.
not able to
Same.
legally vote, smoke cigarettes, smoke weed, drink. I was not allowed to do anything. But yet I was expected to choose what I'm
You could
supposed to do
even
for
see
the
an
rest of my life.
R-rated movie.
No, literally.
I don't even want to see it.
Like, the only thing I could do at the age of 17, the only thing that you can do is buy an M-rated video game. That is it.
And even then, they'd be side-eyeing you.
Right? No, even then they be looking at you like, you sure? See that ID real quick. Let me see your learner's
Like, where
permit.
your mama?
Like, they'd be like, let me see your learner's permit. Let me see your. Let me. Like, I don't get it. Like, what? Why as a literal child was I expected to choose something that I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life? And
I was gonna say, I
why
remember.
is
You
it?
have to
Oh,
pick something out of what you've experienced. So again, this is when lower class lose it because we don't experience as
we
much,
don't
especially
experience
if we start
anything.
working at 15.
Like, do you want to know until like 2 weeks before senior year? Do you want to know what I wanted to do with my life? I wanted to go to the NBA. I think it's very obvious we should not be letting children decide what to do for the rest of their life. If
Not to discourage anybody who wants to go to NBA, obviously reach your dreams.
baby girl,
But
I'm gonna just
not
let you know
with
something
not
right
with him
now.
and his ankles, let's say it like that.
I'm gonna just tell you something right now. If you are under the height of 6'1", you have a literal like 0.2% chance of getting into the NBA. I'm gonna just say
Which
that
is
right
why I said we should chase our dreams, but also, understand if you could even reach them at your height.
Mind you, I say all of this. I am obviously nowhere close to being in the NBA. I am nowhere close to the meeting the height requirement either. So
With
just
those ankles, you ain't going nowhere.
just for anybody that thought I was trying to like talk down on anybody, I'm not. I'm no better than anybody at all.
I
Just the vibe.
was gonna say to Tasha's point of like how ironic it is that it's expected of not even adults to like make these life-changing decisions. I watched a TikTok the other day, and I know TikTok is not the place to get all your information. Shut up.
Whatever.
In this case, it was actually a very interesting take that I've not considered before, and it was this girl talking about how, like, especially, well, for me currently and us because we're all in our early 20s, that it's so easy to like, compare yourself to other people that are more successful, or it seems like they're doing a lot more with their life or with their work or with their careers or with their friends or families or whatever.
Especially
But
with social media.
it's like you are 22 years old. Maybe you're 25. Maybe you're in your like mid 20s. But the point is, like, it took you 2 decades to like get to this point of life where you're like not even fully developed, like we said before. And it's like you're now entering adulthood at such a like weird point in the world's history. And also like you like 22 is basically the baby version of an adult. Like
My baby.
if an adult is being the age of 18, like I've been quote unquote being an adult for not very long at all. So like it's even more funny when people expect X, Y, and Z from me because I'm an adult. But it's like, okay, well, who's going to tell me that I needed to do this or that, or how I was supposed to do this or that? And I think that's.
You know what I think one of the problems is. I feel like once people get past once people get past like the age of like 15, 16, I feel like people just expect them to know at that point in their life. And it's like, but no, that doesn't make sense.
Which is also even more funny because for my parents especially, it's like it's such a double standard of like, well, you should have known to do X, Y, and Z because you're an adult now, or you need to take this responsibility because you're an adult now. But at the same time, it's like they'll also in the same breath be like, well, you wouldn't know this and this because you're still young and like you haven't experienced blah 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 blah.
They use our age both to treat us like children, but also to be like, hey, you got to do this yourself.
Right. So it's so much more confusing because it's like, okay, well, what do you expect out of me? Do you expect me to be an adult or do you expect me to be a child? Because also they be treating you like a child and it's like, all right, I thought I was an adult.
It's always convenient.
To further flesh out my point from earlier, I feel like they just don't. I feel like parents, at least, at least the parents that I have seen in my life, they don't really teach their children how to be adults. It's like they try to let school do that. But that's just simply not what we learn in school. We literally learn useless stuff in school.
I think also too, it's not even like they let school do it either. I mean, they like to be like, "You didn't learn that in school," and it's like, I'm glad you're blaming somebody. That makes one of us, because I'm looking at the culprit right now. But it's also like, anyway, it's also like,
nah, that was too real.
It's a sense of like, you're not helping me.
At all.
You're literally not helping me. And you know that because they did it to you too. Like your parents did it to you too. So why wouldn't you help me? Like, you know what it's like to just be shoved somewhere and you're not helping me. But instead of being like, I know what it's like, you're instead being petty about it. Why? Like, I literally did not, like, I'm literally your child. So if I'm it's your fault. Like, no cap.
To play devil's advocate for some parents at least.
Not mine.
Not a lot of like the same problems that we have of not being taught how to do things, they more than likely went through those same problems. So like
I see, okay.
I can understand like in the sense of like, you're not helping me. Your parents did this to you. Why are you doing that same thing to me? Sometimes it's like all right, prime example. People will be like, don't hit your kids because that's going to make them violent. Well, if somebody was raised getting hit and they weren't taught how to not, hit their child when they do something bad, they're more than likely going to hit their child when they do something bad because they weren't taught any other way. But yeah, also they're like, well, they in their heads they're probably like, well, I turned out okay, and my parents hit me, so
yeah, I will say I'm guilty of that.
Like,
or it's just like, don't do anything wrong, you wouldn't get hit to begin with.
Sometimes, like,
it's like, what do you define as bad? Like,
that's why I was like, I mean,
as a child, and you're holding me to a standard of
an adult.
Which is why they're just like, well, just don't hit it all. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not having kids to begin with, so hold your horses.
I'm also not having kids, so. But anyways, like, so yeah, just to play devil's advocate, some parents just simply were not taught how to, for lack of a better phrase, be good parents.
There's no parenting classes in school anymore either.
Oof.
And that's why half y'all don't even cook.
I didn't even have proper sex ed, bro.
It's crazy how
I ain't even gonna say nothing.
I know. It's crazy how they don't have parenting classes anymore too, because like I feel like
they don't be using rubbers, bro.
I feel like it's a pretty known fact that teen pregnancy has been on quite the rise every year since who knows when.
And instead, they want to blame the music.
But they want to blame the music instead of being like, hey, maybe you should teach your children maybe you should teach your son how to put a condom on.
Instead of just like, don't touch her. I'm like, all right.
Not like, right. It's like, instead, just don't have sex. It's like, okay, well, that's obviously not working because we see the results of you trying to do that. Maybe let's, again, teach your son how to put a condom on, teach your daughter how to take her pill on time. Something, bro. You got to do something.
Well, I know that they're children, they don't want to think about that, but at the same time, it's like, you can't be saying all that and then also be like, but you also can't get an abortion. But also, I'm not going to help you. But also, this. But also, I don't believe in adoption. But also, and it's like, you're really just setting us all up for failure.
It'd be the same parents that only teach abstinence and are like,
that shit destroys a kid, by the way. No, I would know.
Trust me, it does. like it'd be the same parents that preach abstinence and all that good stuff that are the same ones that, like, if their child gets pregnant, they're like, oh yeah, get out. It's like, what is wrong with you?
I will
You
say,
have a child. You know what it's like raising a child. Why would you?
No, they be the same parents that have them at 16. That's what.
No.
oh yeah,
Boom.
oh yeah. But to play devil's advocate, I will say I did have a conversation, not necessarily about having children, but with my parents the other day about like the in younger generation that, you know, I feel like lacks a lot of skills that most people need in this world.
You can say social skills, all right.
And it's like, you know, the whole phenomenon of the iPad babies and the like
Don't get me
kids
started.
that have no attention span because of social media and all this stuff. Like, part of the responsibility definitely should be going to these huge corporations that make these things. But the other bigger responsibility needs to fall on the shoulders of whoever's the guardian of these children. But where the devil's advocate part comes to play is that, and this also ties into what we were talking about before in terms of careers and working these dead-end jobs or jobs that are just not satisfying or whatever. Like, no wonder parents just give their kids an iPad. Like what we were saying earlier, like you get home, you're tired, you don't want to do anything, and like your kid is crying, so what are you going to do? Give them the easiest way out, you know? Which I'm not saying is a good thing. I don't think it is at all. But it's like, it's understandable that this is happening, you know? Especially
So-
with pandemic babies. Like, everybody's just so burnt out, and it's not an excuse at all. But I will say, my parents did make a good point of like, nah, that argument, whatever.
Well, so
I'm gonna chime in as someone who works with these children. Okay.
Please do.
All right.
Please do.
Because you're gonna raise my blood pressure.
Oh boy.
Especially because they're autistic. So I'm just like, there's that extra. You need to be a parent.
There's that extra.
It's one thing, and you said it in 2 words: pandemic babies.
Yes.
And we were just talking about it 2 seconds ago. Safe sex.
Uh-huh.
You need to take responsibility for bringing in an entire child into this world. And I'm gonna pause you right now. I already heard the devil's advocate. Okay?
Oh no!
I understand.
Oh no! Oh no!
No, I understand. And this is coming from a kid who was not an iPad kid, but also as long as you come home when the street lights come on, I quite frankly don't give a what you're doing. Okay? Now, I was a decent kid in the sense that if I had trouble, I did not bring that trouble home.
Absolutely.
Because I knew it would be worse. But anywho,
Mhm.
it's like, I understand you're tired. I understand you need a break. You are a human being. That's completely valid. But there's literally a kid that I work with, and he is the epitome of iPad kid, and he is autistic, which adds a whole nother blend into that. But he comes in and he is literally exhausted. Like, he is falling asleep while walking. He is asleep while walking. We've also done that with him. And we finally asked his mom, like, yo, what the heck is going on? And she decided to tell us the truth. And she, like you said, careers. These people are working and they're doing the American dream, like what we were talking about. And she works for, I won't say, but it's a long job. She's basically gone from 5 a.m. until late into the afternoon. That's a lot. So he's mostly with the sitter. But when she does spend time with him, by the time she gets home, she has dinner with him. And then she goes to sleep because she has to wake up at 5 a.m. to get ready for work and get out the door. And that's hard, you know. Not only is she not seeing her child, but it's like, that's just hard to have to deal with him too. Because not only does he have special and particular needs, he's 2 years old and he wants to be with his mother. So what she does is she gets into bed, and when he won't leave her alone, she gives him the iPad. And instead of eventually falling asleep on the iPad while she's sleeping, he is up until she wakes up, takes the iPad from him. So all those hours, takes the iPad from him, gets ready for work, and then the sitter comes in, and then he'll be up for like another 2 hours, eventually take a nap, and that's like his day. Like that.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? This kid is
So
up at 4 in the morning on an iPad, and now you might
so
say, "Ma'am, you have to deal with the crying and screaming until eventually he gets the hint," which is true. She does. But I also understand that he's crying and screaming for hours and hours and hours, and you need to wake up and do your job. So you do what's easiest, and I do get that. So it's
so
really a double-edged sword of, well, fuck me, right?
okay. I'm gonna chime in as someone who, quite frankly, does not like children.
I hate children. I despise
Um,
children. I hate my job.
oh, girl, I hate my job too, but that's for a different reason. Um, so
I hate
in
my
the
job
sense
even
of
more now,
like,
though.
in the sense of being like, oh, I work this job, and by the time I get home, I'm just really tired. Like, I get that. Um,
But I don't care.
but no, not even that I don't care.
I
My
don't.
my main thing is, okay, but literally nobody told you to have that child.
Exactly.
Like I know not everybody situation is the same when it comes to getting pregnant, and I recognize that. I recognize some people have less choices than others. Um, for most people, this will apply. Uh, I don't know. Maybe buy a $10 pack of condoms. Like,
And even then, though, I will say, like, they break.
no,
Those things
like,
happen.
okay,
But
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say
don't
this.
say it, because
No,
look at
I'm
what just
gonna say
happened with the
this.
bill.
No, I'm
Ah,
gonna say
ah.
this. I'm gonna say this.
I agree with you.
You will, a- as a man, you will always know when the condom breaks. I can't say as a woman if you know when the condom breaks, because I don't know about that. As a man, you always know when the condom breaks. It is a personal decision if you choose to not go get another condom.
But then that also brings up the fact of when they don't mention it.
No,
Right.
see
Some
that's
guys are
why I was
dickheads.
talking about the guys in particular
Most
when I
men
said that.
is what I meant to say. Are
I would say that that's pretty accurate. But like at that point, if the condom breaks, as a guy, that is 100% your fault if you do not go get another condom. That is 100% your fault, and I'm gonna tell you why. You know when it breaks.
Oh, it's so loud in my ear.
I'm so glad I don't have headphones on.
I'm sorry, but like it's upsetting because people will be like, I have a friend. He has 3 kids.
I bet he do.
And he's like, I never, like, he'll be talking to me and like the rest of our friends. They'll be like, bro, I never even wanted these kids. It's crazy. And we'll be like, so why did you have them? And he'll just be like, she got pregnant. And we were like, you know, you don't want a child. Wear a condom. And he's like,
And
oh,
the thing
no,
is,
that's uncomfortable.
oh wow, he didn't even try. That's crazy.
That's your what? So like parents that are like, oh, I'm so tired and all this good stuff. I'm always like, okay, but nobody told you to have that child. Like
And I will also say
nobody
too,
told you to
like,
get
because
pregnant.
I'm tired, I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
what it is when you have a child.
but
It's
yeah,
tiring and it's annoying and it's awful and it's not rewarding. And you know what? Your child might grow up, and it doesn't matter how much you love them, take out of your day. They might end up just being in a great. You know what? Because people are gonna have to be like that, and sometimes you're